If there is one thing Coloradans can agree on, it's that Xcel Energy bills are out of control. Double, triple what people saw this time last year. We went line by line through all of the obscure add-on charges, and you can find that story on 9news.com. Our Marshall Zellinger returns tonight with a look at why some of those charges exist.
The biggest charges on your Xcel bill are the cost of generating and using electricity and natural gas. Here is the short answer as to why you're paying so much for natural gas. The left side shows the cost Xcel paid last year. The right side shows the recent prices paid by Xcel that are then passed down dollar for dollar to us. So I asked Xcel Regional Vice President Jack Eiley why Xcel does not bear any risk for not planning better, like buying and storing gas when it was less expensive.
Isn't that the risk of stockholders? Like, oops, it was really cold in December. Our customers used a lot of energy to heat their homes. We're going to miss out on some money that we thought we were going to have.
On these fuel cost pass-throughs, and that's what we call them because we earn zero profit. We make zero margin on those. We don't make money on those, so we pass those through to customers. So it's essential for the financial health of the company to not bear a liability for something that it earns no profit on.
There are other line items on our bills that add up over time, like the first line on both gas and electric.
On the first charge, service and facility, like at some point, haven't I paid off the equipment that's on my home? Or like I heard I'm paying for the customer service. Well, isn't that an expensive Xcel? Like why am I paying for Xcel to employ customer service through this service and facility charge?
It's partially capital, meaning the cost of the meters. Those depreciate over time. They need to be replaced. It's average across all the customers. So every year we're going to replace new meters. The cost to maintain the support systems like customer care accounts, that's ongoing as well. That doesn't come for free to us, and so we do seek to recover those costs from customers.
He also pointed out the smaller items on the bill, charges we pay so Xcel can provide renewable energy programs, or rebates for electric vehicle charging stations at our home, or the charge to pay Xcel back for retiring coal plants early.
Why does the customer have to pay for that? Viewers are asking, like, what's Xcel's risk? Doesn't Xcel spend money? We heard a lot about, well, Xcel spent this and customers pay it back.
Yeah.
Why am I paying?
Xcel has been driven, by a lot of directives from the Colorado legislature, for instance, to do things like promote electric vehicle adoption and promote distributed renewable energy adoption and promote energy efficiency. So often that is directed by the Colorado legislature.
Okay, so is it the state legislature's fault that we are nickel and dime so Xcel can offer rebates, programs, and shut down plants earlier than anticipated? I asked Democratic Senate President Steve Fenberg, who focuses on energy policy.
When a company like Xcel says, wow, our utility rates are going up because the legislature made us do all these renewable things, I think that's baloney, because transitioning to renewables should be actually a cost-saving measure. But of course, a for-profit, publicly traded, huge company is always going to find ways to make money off of every investment they make. That is their job. But we have to do a better job as a legislature to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that ratepayers are being looked out for.
I should point out again that there is a Public Utilities Commission, 3 commissioners that hear requests from Xcel to put things on our bills that get approved. We got a lot of viewer feedback from our story explaining what's on your Xcel bill. One viewer was frustrated that customer service couldn't tell them if they were better off with the time of use rates or if they opted out and just paid a flat rate. In the last hour, Kyle, I got a response back from Xcel on how we can try to calculate which one is best. So I know I'm teasing ahead to another story in the future, but this one will be helpful to do some math to figure out which one will save you the most money.
It is 7 degrees outside right now, on our way to an overnight low of -2 in Denver. The kind of night where Xcel Energy scolding us to turn down our thermostats can feel like natural gaslighting. Our Marshall Zellinger did the math on how much 1 degree up or down adds up as we look at soaring energy bills.
If I went from 64 to 65 degrees tonight, can you tell me, or can we calculate how much that's going to cost?
Yes, we can definitely calculate that.
Paulo Tabarez is a professor of mechanical engineering at the Colorado School of Mines. He did some neat calculations using an online computer program that built a 1,000 square foot home, 2,000 and 3,000, and the math is essentially the same.
For every degree that you either increase or decrease, you're going to increase by about 3% your heating bills. If you decrease it by 1 degree, you're going to decrease your bills by 3%.
So let's use the bill we've been showing you, which covers 33 days of gas use. These are all the charges that are associated with the gas. Added together, this is roughly $120. 3% of that is $3.60. For this homeowner, if they were to increase their thermostat 1 degree tonight and do that every day for the month, that's $3.60 more. Decrease 1 degree every day for the month, that's a savings of $3.60.
If you say, well, that's not really much, and I agree, only $3, right? But if you reduce it 5 degrees, right, from 70 to 65, you're talking about 15%.
Part of Xcel's messaging to help customers save on their energy bills includes lower your thermostat a few degrees. If each degree saves 3%, based on the example I showed you, lowering a few degrees tonight would save this person 11 cents for 1 degree, around 55 cents for 5 degrees.
We've talked about how Xcel and other energy companies pass along natural gas costs dollar for dollar. What they pay for the gas is what we pay for the gas. What we just learned is that Xcel is also allowed to pass along the cost of its legal team. We are paying for Xcel's lawyers who try to get the regulators to charge us more for a whole variety of things. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
I'm not able to answer a question.
When the Public Utilities Commission can only listen and not respond, who do you reach out to for answers about high utility bills?
We are independent of both the Public Utilities Commission and the governor's office.
Cindy Schoenhout is the director of the UCA, the State Office of Utility Consumer Advocate, basically our lifeline, defending us consumers in front of the PUC when energy companies like Xcel ask for rate increases.
We haven't been very successful. And the reason is because we're an advocate, not a decision maker.
The 3 PUC commissioners are the decision maker. Take, for example, the most recent $64 million gas rate increase that the PUC approved to take effect this past November. The UCA fought against some of the costs, including $2.2 million that Xcel wanted built into the rate increase to pay for the legal team that was needed to argue for the rate increase.
The cost that the company incurred to put on a case to raise consumer rates, consumers are paying for those costs.
As part of the rate increase, we're refunding their legal fees to get the rate increase.
We are giving them the money to get the rate increase, yes.
If it's any consolation, the PUC knocked the $2.2 million down to $2 million, and the PUC encouraged Xcel to better manage its expenses related to rate cases.
As far as a success from our office, I would really point to yesterday's public comment hearing. And the reason is, we didn't speak, of course, consumers did, and they had something to say.
And if you have something to say, the UCA wants to hear from you. You can call or email, but their email is ridiculously long, so go to the website uca.colorado.gov, scroll all the way down to the bottom left. In the last 2 months, the UCA received 102 emails and voicemails, with another dozen since the PUC public meeting yesterday.
I will tell you, I've been in this position 9 years. I can't even measure the order of magnitude difference between what we received in the last 6 to 12 months from consumers with the whole 9 years before that.
I would argue that the scariest place in your house is no longer the unfinished basement, but perhaps right there on the side of the house. Holy moly, is that email address unconscionable. So if you go to the website, uca.colorado.gov, you can scroll to the bottom and click on the email link, and it auto-populates so that you don't have to write it in. Also, I noticed at the top of the website, there is a Google form now. If you click a link, you can just type in some information about what you want to complain about.
We've heard from hundreds of Xcel customers as we report nearly every day on expensive energy bills and efforts to reduce them. Quite a few of you have asked about Xcel spending money on advertising. I mean, they don't have competition, so what's with the advertising? We've been asking Xcel, and we finally got an answer. Our Marshall Zellinger went to an advertising executive to make some sense of this.
At Xcel Energy, we're big into the little things.
I sent you an email asking, why does Xcel advertise to customers on television and radio when I can't shop for another energy provider?
Mike Chadwick is one of the next viewers who had the same question. Why does Xcel spend money on ads?
Resilient, reliable energy.
I'm sure that the millions of dollars they spend a year would offset quite a few winter bills for people that are less fortunate than myself.
It was 1 week ago today when, prompted by viewers, I asked Xcel why it advertises. I'll let Mike read you some of the answer Xcel sent me yesterday.
It is one of the tools we use to communicate with our customers, sharing news on the work we're doing, explaining our programs and services, and sharing safety and reliability information.
Everything is going carbon free. At Xcel Energy, we see it too.
That is a classic example of a corporate reputation ad.
Morgan Young is an ad executive and instructor of advertising at CU Boulder.
I've made some of these ads myself, by the way, not for Excel, but for other companies, yeah.
Unlike advertising between rival companies, Young believes ads like these are to offset the negative thoughts you might associate with Excel when the power goes out or your bill skyrockets.
You can tell that Excel and other energy companies are feeling the heat. Customers fed up with bills that are 3-4 times last year's, while Excel is making tremendous profits. That's why a coalition of energy companies led by Excel came out today to announce that they're going to give $1 million to help low-income families pay their bills. $1 million bucks. Then our pesky Marshall Zellinger did some math.
Thank you for the question.
Standing outside in the shade on a chilly day is how energy company executives announced a plan to help needy Coloradans stay warm.
We're making a commitment of $500,000 ourselves, and our partners are also making a commitment of we're going to reach over $1 million.
This is Excel Energy Colorado President Robert Kenney announcing Excel's share of the $1 million that will go to Energy Outreach Colorado, a group that provides payment assistance for customers who need help. According to Energy Outreach Colorado, just last week it issued $528,000 to 751 applicants for energy assistance. That's more than the $500,000 Excel just committed to giving.
This is in addition to the ongoing support that we provide Energy Outreach Colorado. It's about $19 million a year.
Let's pause for a moment. A spokeswoman with Energy Outreach Colorado told me this afternoon that Excel provides $5,000 to sponsor a golf tournament each year. The rest of the money Excel gives Energy Outreach Colorado comes from Excel's ratepayers, you, the customer. Money from different line items on your bill. Money from the new 75-cent energy assistance charge on both your electric and gas bills. And money from late payment fees. So let's hear that again.
This is in addition to the ongoing support that we provide Energy Outreach Colorado. It's about $19 million a year.
The ongoing support that we provide Energy Outreach Colorado is really the support you provide that passes through Excel. Also at this news conference was Excel CEO Bob Frenzel. We showed you his picture last week when reporting on the company's $1.7 billion profit, which comes from all 8 states that Excel services.
Viewers are asking, is it possible, or why not, for Excel to use some of that profit to just slash customer bills currently?
Sure. I appreciate the question and the feedback, and I am particularly interested in addressing our customers' concerns.
He explained the company reinvests its profits in infrastructure and capital improvements.
We do believe we are giving back to our communities and our customers through reinvestment into our networks, making the necessary investments that we need for a safe, reliable, and affordable future.
Let's not discount that these groups are coming together to provide money that will help families in need. But based on those statistics, the 528,000, that will cover, if there is $1 million total, that won't cover 2 more weeks worth of people asking for help, and you only get help through Energy Outreach Colorado. You only get help 1 time a year.
Oh, so if people have already expended their assistance for the year, the fact that there's a bit more funding in there.
Right, and the 528,000 divided by 751 applicants is $703 on average that they doled out last week to people in need.
Well, I will just say publicly, thank you to Excel Energy for the $500,000 for energy assistance. Thank you also to the Excel customers who've paid $19 million worth of that funding as well.
They're only allowed to get profits on things they build.
Ian Lang is traveling, but he's an expert in this. He runs the Mineral and Energy Economics program at the Colorado School of Mines.
So they'll spend something like $10 million to build a solar facility. The Public Utility Commission allows them to earn a rate of return above that $10 million.
Excel explains that its Colorado rate of return for investors last year was 8.23%, which was the lowest return last year from all of the 8 states it services. But they are guaranteed a rate of return. When the Public Utilities Commission approves gas and electric rates, it approves them with extra for profit.
So then they really want to build stuff. They would really like to be building. They're going to say, hey, we need to build all these things.
Because that's where they make their profit.
Right. And they're less excited about things that don't require building.
Hedging is supposed to protect us against high spikes in the price of gas. Excel Colorado President Robert Kenney told me how much Excel hedges earlier this week.
We hedge about 50% of our gas needs so that we can limit the amount that we have to purchase in the spot market.
Simply put, the more you hedge, the more you're protected when the price of gas skyrockets, like it did in February 2021. Otherwise, you have to buy at the price it's going for in the moment. On the flip side, if Excel hedges and the price of gas drops when we need it, we overpaid.
So every every gas utility in the state would tell you it's a reliability resource first and an economic resource second.
Erin O'Neill is the Public Utilities Commission chief economist. She explained Xcel's gas purchasing plan to the commissioners before they voted to approve it.
This sort of seasonal hedging strategy is very focused on the upcoming heating season, and it's sort of trying to address medium-term price movements.
Here is their plan, at least the one the public gets to see.
I mean, I think what's really interesting about the publicly available PUC filings is that the majority of the actual content and substance that you need to make an informed decision about the performance of their previous and current hedging proposals is redacted.
Breezy Carlson is an oil and gas attorney who tried to help make sense of what does not make sense without the actual numbers.
For an average ratepayer to be able to determine whether or not they have faith in the program that's being implemented and or requested, it's very, very difficult to do without being able to see any of the actual data. In a regulated utilities market, there is no reason to have secrecy from the consumer.
Personally, I don't think it's appropriate for ratepayers to pay the utilities lawyers to increase their rates.
Democratic Senate President Steve Fenberg tells us a lot of what we've reported on in the last 3 weeks, like paying Xcel back for its legal fees, could result in new legislation.
We need to have legislative action on making sure that the investments that occur are in the public interest.
You have been heard by the state legislators about your concerns with Xcel Energy's high bills these days. They also have been hearing Marshall Zellinger's constant reporting on the issue, specifically the profit-taking that Xcel is allowed to do on the backs of ratepayers, what is and is not allowed. So now the state legislature is going to convene a special committee. And if you're thinking to yourself, hold on, a committee is what they do when they don't actually want to do anything, Marshall found out this committee might actually do something, and fairly soon.
Lawmakers have seen enough. Perhaps enough that I won't have to show video of gas meters much longer. The high bills Coloradans have experienced this winter will result in a special 6-member legislative committee to review why our bills are so high and what laws could change to affect those bills.
We're not creating a committee just to move things around and, pat ourselves on the back. This committee really is to investigate, to learn, and to chart a path forward on policy changes that can happen either this year or in the near future.
Democratic Senate President Steve Fenberg just announced the Joint Select Committee on Rising Utility Rates. 4 Democrats and 2 Republicans total from the House and Senate to meet 3 to 6 times before the legislative session ends in early May.
Why are certain types of expenses allowed to be passed on to consumers? Whether it's fuel costs or operating costs or fees, we need to get to the bottom of exactly what's led us to where we are.
We've heard from Xcel customers concerned about their bills and how Xcel makes and spends money. Over the last 3 weeks, we've explained what each line on your Xcel bill is for, why it's on there, and where Xcel makes its $1.7 billion profit.
They shouldn't make exorbitant profits of what seems to be more than what other companies do.
We've helped you figure out how much you will spend turning your thermostat up 1 degree and how to do the math to figure out if your electricity is better off billed based on time of day or overall flat rate.
This one was 33% higher than it was last year. And we're already, look at how much we're paying for eggs and stuff now. So every penny counts when you're trying to keep your budget on your household.
The stories that have been coming from the news about this and doing the deeper dive on utility bills has been very helpful and has helped people understand what is and what is not causing these increased rates. And so now as policymakers, I think it's appropriate for us to look at that from a policy perspective.
These committee hearings will be open to the public. So the committee, who are they going to hear from? Utility companies, energy experts, and you, if you want to be heard, because this is how it started, because so many people were complaining about their high utility bills. But let's be real, Kyle. Even if they do something by the end of the session, which is early May, it's not going to affect your bill even by June.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the state legislature has one role to play in this process, and state regulators, as you have showed us over the last couple of weeks, they're the ones that really have their hands on the levers.
Right, so this is just policy changes so that state lawmakers would then be guiding the Public Utilities Commission. When you hear these rate cases, these are things we now want you to consider. It's not like the legislature is just going to come through and slash bills like that. They're going to guide the people who do slash bills how to do that.
I get stopped by people who want to talk about your Excel reporting, and they want to pass along questions and that kind of thing. It's clear that like you've tapped into real interest in the community to learn more about this thing that impacts so many people.
My inbox, my email inbox, marshall@9news.com, is the most robust area where I'm getting the feedback.
Yeah.
You're passing some feedback along as well, including a handwritten letter. I want to show this to you from Kay Johnson. I was supposed to meet with her today. Something came up and we couldn't meet. A handwritten letter sent to us to explain the same thing. And I know it's got a lot of numbers in there, but look at that penmanship.
I was about to say lost art. That's beautiful.
And her issue was the same. I've got this solar panels on my home. They're not connected yet. Look at what my bill is doing. Can you help me?
This was the second of 3 scheduled hearings for this special committee looking at why utility rates are starting to rise and what legislative might be done, what can be done legislatively to keep that from happening in the future. Over 8 states, Xcel, as we've told you, made $1.7 billion in profit in 2022, $727 million from Colorado alone. So when you have the Xcel Energy Colorado CEO in front of you, you ask about those record profits being made while customers are seeing record bills.
You've repeatedly said that you invest your profits into infrastructure into the state. What do you mean by that?
I don't want to leave you with the impression that I'm trying to say we don't make profits. We do, but we also invest back into infrastructure more than what our profits actually are. And so the way that we do that is by going to Wall Street, into the capital markets, either through debt or equity, and raising the capital that we need to continue making investments. And so it's a continuous cycle.
There was significant questioning about why Xcel passes along to customers the legal fees it incurs to argue for rate increases. On the most recent gas rate increase, that was $2 million.
They testified in today's Rising Utility Rates Committee about ways to shift the responsibility of consumers paying 100% of natural gas costs. Right now, companies like Xcel pass on natural gas costs dollar for dollar, and that amount changes on your bill every 3 months, under ECA on your electric bill and natural gas on your gas bill. One suggestion today is that the company can only pass along so much each quarter, like 95%, with the ability to get paid back the rest when it has to prove its expenses during a big rate case, which happens about every 2 years.
What started out as a story decoding your Xcel bills has now led to potential legislation to lower that bill. Our Marshall Zellender has educated all of us, explaining what you're charged for and why. He's revealed some costs that the state legislature is now trying to prevent from being passed on to you. But the changes being considered may not bring immediate relief.
We had reduced our consumption by 30%, and my rate went up 70%.
There is nothing coming out of their pocket.
We need some help here, guys.
Customers of Xcel Energy, you've been heard. Lawmakers who created a special committee to look at reducing utility rates have introduced legislation that attempts to do just that. The bill would make several policy changes, starting with how much high gas costs can be passed on to customers.
Your largest charge is your ECA, which is the actual fuel.
When we did our first story on Xcel bills in January, it was to explain what you're charged for and why. The reason our bills were so high this past winter was colder temperatures and the cost of fuel, which was much higher than the year before. And the cost Xcel pays for fuel is passed on to customers dollar for dollar.
We earn zero profit. We make zero margin on those. We don't make money on those, so we pass those through to customers.
This past winter, when fuel costs skyrocketed, this bill would have said that you actually can't charge customers for more than X amount of dollars of fuel costs.
This bill would do a few things regarding gas costs. One, if they're high, customers would still pay the cost, just spread out over time, not immediately on our next bill. It would also create risk for Xcel and other utility companies to share in the cost if the companies buy gas when it's priced too high.
The board and the shareholders now are going to say, hey, company, you're on the hook for fuel, some of the fuel costs. So what are you doing to keep those costs low? Right now, there's nobody asking that question because it doesn't really matter. This provides some risk exposure so that they actually will care about those costs.
The bill also limits expenses on many areas we exposed, like the lawyers we end up paying for that Xcel hires to argue for higher rates, and advertising we pay for even though Xcel does not have competition. The bill, which is in part because of our coverage on high Xcel bills, would limit what expenses Xcel and other utility companies could pass on to customers. That part of the bill would make minor changes to our utility bills. The biggest aspect would be an attempt to have Xcel and other utilities have a cost sharing of high gas prices.
The fuel sharing costs in particular are the thing that would potentially cause our owners and the people that provide us with capital to make different decisions about where they deploy it or what they charge us for that capital.
Xcel Energy Colorado President Robert Kenney testified against the bill today, saying it would raise rates and create uncertainty for Xcel because of what it might mean for decisions by potential investors.
We have to borrow that capital to be able to make those investments, and if it costs us more to get that money that gets passed on to customers, we have to make different decisions about how we will allocate capital.
There's a problem if we can never move forward on changes to the regulatory process without the permission of the regulated. That's not how it works.
You want to know why your next questions matter so much? Because they can lead to change in Colorado. It was your questions that led our Marshall Zellinger to spend months examining how Xcel Energy was pocketing record profits while you saw sky-high bills and you were getting past some questionable expenses by that utility. Marshall's reporting then led to legislative scrutiny. Today, a new law. The law limits which costs utilities like Xcel can pass on to their customers. This means you won't be charged for things like legal fees for Xcel's legal battles, as well as certain advertising expenses. Xcel won't be able to pass along costs for lobbying or political donations either. The law will have regulators, the state's Public Utilities Commission, the PUC, set a limit on the cost of gas that can be passed on to customers. The governor says they left that up to regulators because they're able to respond to changes more quickly than if legislators did it once a year.
It's a hard thing to do in statute because it's dynamic and potentially changing over time. So I think what this is a directive to PUC. I'm sure the legislature, as well as me, will be watching what PUC does with it to make sure it fulfills the intent of the law.
Because the rulemaking process will take some time, your utility bill is not going to drop immediately. No surprise, Xcel opposed this legislation, said it will hurt investor relationships and might cause the company to raise rates.
No to this rate increase. Stop raising the rates. Absolutely not. Hard no. No more increases. You are making record profits. These are just some of the emails from Xcel customers in Thornton, Superior, Aurora, and Arvada. Emails sent to the Public Utilities Commission right after our story in March, explaining Xcel's request for a $312 million electric rate increase for September.
Well, we've proposed a reduction of approximately $27 million.
Joe Pereira is the Deputy Director of the Office of Utility Consumer Advocate, the group that acts as the ratepayers' public defender. The UCA wants the PUC to reduce Xcel's rate in September, not increase it, saying that Xcel has gone over budget on projects and that the customer should not have to pay for going over budget.
We've proposed that the company are disallowed some of these costs to bring some cost discipline and to bring some motivation to the company to do better in the future.
As we explained in March, a rate case is like a game of leapfrog, with Xcel seeking reimbursement for past expenses, investments, and predicting the cost of future expenses. Xcel makes money on infrastructure. If it builds something, it can earn interest on that investment. And when you take into account the interest and the expenses they're seeking payment for from ratepayers, they want rates to go up $312 million total. The staff that makes recommendations to the PUC suggests just $21 million, in part because Xcel raised electric rates 17 months ago. The UCA, our public defenders, actually think the rates should go down from where they are today, down $27 million.
So this would be the neighbor that I have been charged his gas usage.
Austin was getting billed for someone else's gas meter.
The meter number listed on my bill matched my neighbor's meter. It's been wrong since the construction of these townhomes, which they were basically built in around the year 2000, so over 2 decades. And I myself have lived here since about 2006, so about 16 years.
Xcel sent Austin this spreadsheet showing what he was billed on the left and what he should have been billed on the right. For instance, in January, when everyone was getting sky-high gas bills, he paid $241, when the bill should have been $54. And in December 2021, he paid $230 too much.
I was refunded $1,600 for 2 years. I mean, you kind of extrapolate that out. probably looking around $10,000 or so.
When Xcel underbills someone, the company can charge the customer for the missing amount for the previous 6 months. When Xcel overbills someone, the company is supposed to refund 2 years.
It is what the commission decided as far as the treatment years ago. It's something the commission could look at sometime in the future. But
PUC Deputy Director Gene Camp told me that Xcel is required to keep at least 3 years worth of electric billing records and 4 years of gas billing records. So Xcel does have more data if it wanted to go beyond the requirement. Claudia watched our story yesterday about the guy in Superior who was paying for his neighbor's gas usage for 16 years. Well, she lives in the same townhome complex and wants to know how to make sure she's paying for the correct meter. Claudia, you uncovered a gap in my story from yesterday. Austin, who lives in a townhome, discovered no matter what he did to conserve, his bill never went down. Then he found out the meter number assigned to his bill was not the same as the meter providing gas to his home. To make sure the gas meter on your bill matches the gas meter on your home, look at the natural gas page of your bill. This one is redacted, but yours would have your address, a premises number, and invoice number. But the ID you need to match is the one that shows up here next to meter. Then go outside and look for that same number or letter and number on the meter itself. For electricity, you need to look at the electricity portion of your bill, which has its own meter number, and then go outside and compare it to your electric meter. On the new smart meters, that meter number appears here. When I came back from paternity leave in January, I set out to do a story helping us all understand, what do we pay Xcel for? We were all getting jaw-dropping bills. What do all the line items on our bill mean, and why are they there? That was it. I was going to move on after those 2 stories. But you wouldn't let me. You had more questions. You needed answers. And based on the feedback from more than 30 stories now, you're getting more understanding and, in some cases, more resolution of your utility bill from our stories. I cannot keep up with the number of emails you have sent me with issues I had never thought of and issues your neighbor may also be experiencing. I will try to get to them. Not to pick on Xcel, but to excel in responding to you.
The most likely cause of the second fire was hot particles discharged from an Xcel Energy power line.
And with that announcement by Boulder County Sheriff Curtis Johnson, you have asked us, if Xcel is liable for any damages as a result of the Marshall Fire, are you, as a customer, liable to pay?
To me, this is pretty clearly in the category of something that ratepayers should not be on the hook for.
Democratic Senate President Steve Fenberg sponsored a bill that became law this year, limiting expenses that utility companies can pass on to customers, like legal fees to argue for higher gas or electric rates. But that law does not talk about legal fees to fight wildfire lawsuits or pay any potential damages.
I can't decide or speak for the Public Utilities Commission, but as a legislator and someone who works on these issues, I can say over my dead body, will I allow ratepayers to be paying for this?
Looks like Xcel is only going to get a fraction of the rate increase that it wanted. Our Marshall Zellinger has been reporting relentlessly on how Xcel gets state regulators to approve additions to its already record profits. Most recently, Xcel wanted to increase electric rates by $312 million starting in September. Now there is a settlement proposal that would give Xcel a much smaller increase, something like $48 to $97 million.
Smart meters allow companies like Xcel to charge for electricity based on the time of day that electricity was used. Look at this bill, for example. Mid-peak is 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. on weekdays. On-peak, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on weekdays. And off-peak, 7 p.m. to 1 p.m. on weekdays. Also all day on holidays, like today, and all day on weekends. Summer rates took effect in June. Mid-peak is just shy of 12 cents a kilowatt hour. On-peak, 17 cents, and off-peak, a little more than 6 cents. You can also opt out and instead pay a flat rate 24 hours a day. The summer flat rate is a little more than 8 cents a kilowatt hour. If you opt out, though, you stay opted out for 1 year. One of the first stories we did on Xcel in January was based on a question from Aurora Xcel customer Ann Collins-Smith.
I wanted to know what would be the best rate. How much does it cost if I stay on flat rate? Or how much does it cost if I use time of use billing?
That brings us to Gary in North Glen, who emailed us and said he opted out to a flat rate. And when he got his next bill, it no longer showed him his usage based on time of day, but instead just a total amount of electricity used. Gary wrote us and said, it would be nice to be able to do a month-by-month comparison to determine if I did in fact make the right choice. I would think Xcel would be able to provide this information if they wanted to, since it is Xcel's smart meter. We took Gary's concern to Xcel, and in a statement, an Xcel spokeswoman started with, we're happy to provide our customers with the ability to track their electric energy use in near real time through their smart meter. But that's only if they stay on time of use.
My question is, are they self-insured? And if they are, and do lose, would they pass that settlement on to us as consumers?
Greg has a bug at my house. My wife Jana has asked the same question. Xcel does have insurance coverage. As I found out earlier this year when Xcel was found partially responsible for the 2018 explosion at Heather Gardens in Aurora, legal judgments are paid by Xcel's insurance coverage. The payout is not from customers. However, the cost of the insurance policy is paid by customers. It's the part of your bill that helps Xcel pay for operating costs. That's built into the base rates on your bill. So for instance, if you look at it, a base rate on your electric bill is the time of use charge you pay for electricity. Smart meters are supposed to make billing smarter for Xcel. For a handful of Xcel customers, the installation of their smart meters outsmarted Xcel. Hundreds of customers who signed up for average monthly billing for a predictable dollar amount every month are about to receive an unpredictable bill.
I have 2 years worth of data here.
Throughout this year, we have tried to uncomplicate your Xcel bill. Average monthly payments, where customers pay a set amount each month, is one way Xcel tries to uncomplicate your bill.
When you started doing your stories, I actually pulled out bills from the previous year and compared month to month from 2022 to 2023. And I started doing that after your reporting because I was curious as to what was actually happening.
Lori Grove became even more curious after this notice came in the mail.
The letter states that an upcoming bill may show a significant credit balance. So I called Xcel to find out what the story was and was told that we had about a $550 credit.
Xcel called it a technology issue and told me it's an issue with the installation of smart meters.
Joanna in Highlands Ranch, who discovered that no matter how little she used, her bill went up. She knew just who to ask for help with an Xcel mystery. No, not Xcel. Are you kidding me? She asked Marshall Zellinger.
So I just wrote, Dear Xcel person.
Since electric smart meters do not have to be read in person, Xcel may never see the note Joanna Benink left taped on hers.
I talked to them over a year ago without any resolution.
Her issue is not with the meter itself. The number on the meter matches the number on her bill. The number she does not believe matches is the number she is charged every month.
In August, I was gone on a cruise, and I was gone for about 28 days. And I came back, and my bill was higher than when I was here.
So after comparing some recent bills with her neighbor, together they went full Nancy Drew.
That's when I decided to turn off my main breaker for 8 hours. This is me. The kilowatt hours is 44.21, and then it went up to 44.22, even though my breaker was off.
While documenting the kilowatt hour numbers on the meters, they saw her neighbor's meter frozen.
2049, 2049, 2049. And then as soon as I turned on my breaker and the air conditioner, it went up to 2051. So that's all in this letter that I have taped to my meter to help whoever came in to see that something's jacked up.
So we've reached the part of the story where I'm supposed to tell you Xcel comes out to help.
They said I would have to hire an electrician to come in here and check out the wiring because it has nothing to do with Xcel.
There is a secret to getting great customer service from Xcel Energy. All you have to do is call Marshall Zellinger. A customer who suspected she was paying for her neighbor's electric was right. And after Xcel gave her the runaround, Marshall got involved, and now this lady's getting reimbursed for 2 years' worth of overbilling. Marshall, I don't know how you do it. You work full-time for 9 News, and it appears that you're putting in at least 15 to 20 hours a week doing customer service for Xcel.
Well, because I have this sitting at my desk and I can learn a lot about how electric meters work and whatnot. I got to get this back to Excel probably at some point. A meter like this was plugged into the incorrect wires at a townhome complex in Highlands Ranch. Joanna Benning has suspected she's been paying for her neighbor's meter since she moved into her condo in 2021. She came to that conclusion when her bill was high despite being on a months-long cruise on 2 occasions. Excel told her that she needed to hire an electrician to figure it out because the problem was on the customer side of the meter. After our story last month, an electrician who happens to be a neighbor checked the meter for her.
This was the meter that was supposed to be mine. So he lifted up this little door and he turned off this switch. And then Annette's, my neighbor's, electricity went out. So then we went to this one and he turned it off. And then we went into my condominium and my power was completely out. At the time, this was my meter, but I was being charged for that one.
Joanna does not yet know how much she overpaid over 2 years, but she said Excel should get her that refund next week. Next, viewers, Judith and Travis, you wrote in after the initial story and figured out how this would get figured out. Next to the meters are dog tags that have printed the condo unit number that they're supposed to be linked with. Once it was confirmed that Joanna's meter had the wrong dog tag number next to it, the dog tags were swapped, and then Excel got these meter numbers reprogrammed in both of their accounts. And that is now how Joanna is going to get correct billing, and her neighbor, whose bill is probably going to go up because she's been paying Joanna's lower bill this whole time.
This is beyond customer service. This is public service.